Okay, so I'll just give everyone maybe a little bit of time to just get ready. I know it's also going to be a little bit harder to watch the screen and be lying down at the same time, so we might have to explore to see what works for us. Okay, so while we're getting ready, I'm just going to explain kind of what this class is about. So mostly this class is going to be kind of two things. One thing is just awareness of our posture. So especially if you're someone with osteoporosis, there are a few things that we need to keep in mind. So our spine is kind of one segment kind of stacked on top of each other. So when so it's kind of a lot of these kind of on top of each other. So and there's almost a little bit jello in between each vertebrae. So when we're rounded, so if let's say I'm something, I should go this way. If I'm kind of this way, rounded, so my spine is curved like this. So you'll see that there's kind of more pressure in the front of the vertebrae. So a vertebrae is just each segment of the spine. And there's a little bit less pressure in the back. Okay, so a couple of things can happen depending on what you have. So if you don't have osteoporosis, if you do this hard enough, the jello substance in the back, so in between the vertebrae, can sometimes get squeezed out. Okay, so you can imagine that if I have a couple of grapes or a grape in between my fists, okay, if I go this way, the grape is going to want to go out the back. Okay, so that's why sometimes people can kind of herniate their back, or there's nerves going around the spine as well. So it can compress into the spine, and that can cause issues. If you have osteoporosis or bad osteoporosis, if you do this kind of hard enough, or you do this for kind of long enough, your spine might actually kind of change shape. Okay, so because there's more pressure in the front, so you almost compress the front of your vertebrae. So instead of this way, your spine becomes more narrow, almost in the front of the spine, and that's when you sometimes might see people with not just rounded posture, but this back is literally kind of stuck like this, and even if you ask them to come back up, they can't, because the spine literally has kind of changed its shape already. So what this class is, once again, we are just kind of more awareness of what our posture is doing, especially when, let's say, we're lifting things or moving around. Okay, and secondly, we do want to strengthen or at least build up the endurance. It's actually not the strength so much, it's the endurance of the muscles in the back, because those are the muscles that lift our chest upwards. Okay, so you might be able to feel it. So if you set up tall and you go even just somewhere below, these muscles already kind of pop out already, because it is supporting the kind of our trunk. Okay, so we want to build up the muscles in the pretty much back of the trunk. Okay, also the hips a little bit as well, and then also a little bit of the trunk muscles around it as well. Ideally, if you have osteoporosis, we also want to look at just general strength training as well, because those build up the muscles around the body, and that helps to support the rest of our joints, and also put a little bit of load on our joint, or on our bones. Okay, and that helps to keep the bone density upwards. Okay, so I'm not asking you to lift 500 pounds. That would be too much for, I think, a mass majority of people. It's just a little bit loading on our muscles, on our kind of our bones, to keep the bone density up, and also to it's good in general to keep our muscle mass as well. Okay, so before we do the stuff in the back in the lying position, we're just going to review kind of what a tall, good posture is. Okay, so if you've been to other classes, you probably heard me talk about these before. Okay, so a good posture is just think of getting a little bit taller. Okay, so once again, think of the vertebrae being instead of being slouched like this. This is just more even pressure. Okay, and then shoulders a little bit wider. Okay, so this doesn't mean that we have to go around walking like this all day long. Okay, that's not going to be good for our backs either. Okay, it's just that a couple of scenarios that we want to pay extra attention to. So one, if you're spending a lot of time in a position, be a little bit more careful. So we want to avoid spending like 10 hours a day this way. So that's a lot of time under a load. Okay, so if you spend a lot of time, at least change position or at least be in a better position. If you're holding something heavy, also get into a better position. So taller, wider for the spine. So naturally, when we do any sort of weightlifting, we talk about taller spine, wider shoulders. Okay, and the kind of last thing we need to be careful of is that whenever you go into the kind of the end range, okay, so for example, if you need to reach into like a dishwasher, or you are going to be rounding your back a little bit, it's very hard to kind of stay perfectly. I don't even know how I'm going to reach in without, I guess I can do this. But if it's a kind of a washing machine, you are going to be rounding and turning your back. Okay, it's just that if you have osteoporosis, or really, especially most of you really bad osteoporosis, be careful not to go and be all the way down. So that's really round into the end, what we call end range. Okay, so we completely round it. So that puts a little more pressure. Twisting. Okay, so once again, it's not that we cannot round our back, that we cannot twist our back. So once again, I'm not saying that we need to walk around like a robot, but be careful when you have to go all the way to the end range or all the way twist. Just be a little careful if you have things like osteoporosis. The same goes for kind of side bending. Okay, once again, our spine is supposed to move in different directions, but if you're going all the way to the end range, be careful and just don't go as far. Sometimes a combination is usually the one to be careful of. So if you have to do a turn and a twist, so sometimes let's say like shuffling something, like a turn and a twisting motion, that puts more pressure on the back as well. Okay, so those are the things that we might have to just pay a little more attention to if you have bad osteoporosis. Okay, so then sometimes we just don't know. So it's just how to keep the posture. So the very basics of it is that the hinging motion or the squatting motion is something that we do want to practice a little bit. Okay, so you can have a chair or something. You don't even need a chair actually. Just if you feel comfortable standing up and down. Okay, so we are just going to put thumb kind of on the ribs, the other fingers on just somewhere in front of the belly. Okay, we're going to go into, once again, a taller posture, slightly wider for the shoulders. Okay, so once again, why does it mean this? Wide really means wider for the shoulders. Okay, so if we start to round and back, you're going to feel your clothes kind of get bunched up. You're going to feel your fingers getting closer together. Okay, if you do the opposite, you can feel the clothes kind of stretch out underneath you. Okay, so one of the practice you can do is that get in a good posture, okay, and see if you can just kind of bend down, almost think of sitting on a tall bar stool and then coming back up, okay, without feeling much going on, moving around. Okay, so we're going to keep the spine in the same nice tall posture. Okay, as we are bending, let's say we're bending down to pick up something. Our spine is staying roughly in the same shape. Okay, when we're sitting up and down, so this is more of a squat. Okay, we are keeping a spine in good posture as well. Okay, leg strength becomes important. So sometimes a lot of seniors, they tend to even just kind of prop them on a chair, so they kind of just fall in the chair. So that's a compression force on the spine. That's kind of bad if you're kind of rounded, so you can see my back jerk a little bit. So that's just kind of, you think of someone dropping heavy weights on you, and your spine just goes bounce like that. Okay, so that's why general strength training is important for posture, for management of osteoporosis as well. Okay, it's just so that we have enough strength to have good control. Okay, so something to keep in mind is, can you Move your hips, move your legs, okay, without kind of bending the back so much. Okay, so once again, it doesn't mean we have to do this every time. It's just that we're doing something, lifting something heavier, or we're spending a lot of time in the position. Just be a little bit more mindful of our posture. Okay, so once again, this is a squat. So being able to sit up and down while keeping our posture, our spine in a nice position. Okay, this can be same for turning. Okay, so a lot of people don't know how to use their legs or the hips. So let's say when they're shoveling snow, they sometimes twist their spine instead of moving their feet. Okay, so can you turn side to side, okay, by kind of moving our feet, moving our hips, okay, maybe a little bit less with the spine. Okay, so once again, we don't have to walk around like this all day. Okay, it's just that if we're lifting something heavy, if we're doing something for long periods of time, okay, or if you notice that you have to over twist, okay, then definitely engage more of our body to do these type of motion. Okay, so kind of bending and then side bending or twisting these type of motions. See if you incorporate at least a little bit of hips to help out. Okay, so that's the very kind of basics of it. So that's it. You want to maybe you can keep in mind in your day-to-day activities. Okay, so now we are just going to be more in a supine position. If you don't feel comfortable going down towards the ground and getting up safely, you can also use a wall instead. So you can kind of lean against a wall and think of that as lying down, and you can do the kind of exercises that way. But if you can use the ground. It just helps us. You can just use gravity to help us do these exercises. Okay, so in terms of safety, moving up and down, you can definitely have chairs around so that if you need to, you can use the chairs to help you push yourself back up. Okay, so generally speaking, you can think of this as practice as well. So you can kind of hinge yourselves. So that's now the back in a good position so that you can support ourselves as the kind of the chair. Okay, so you're gonna stand on your stronger leg and you can let your lower leg and your weaker leg go down. Okay, and you can kind of walk yourself back. Okay, so this is actually even good practice for getting up and down from the ground. Okay, so if we can get yourself into this position, that's already good. Okay, so maybe we can practice a few times. Okay, so we are just going to ideally softer, of course, softer ground be more comfortable. Okay, but once again, when you get up, you can go to your stronger leg in front. Okay, use your arms to help. Okay, push yourself up. Okay, and then kind of stand back up tall. Okay, so usually I'd say that the ability to get up and down from the ground is kind of like swimming. It's like swimming for younger kids. Okay, so most people don't have to swim most of the time. Okay, but the ability to swim can save your life. So if you get someone in water, it's much better if you know how to swim. Okay, same if you end up on the ground, it's much better if you're able to get back up as well. Okay, so this is something that we should kind of practice safely. Okay, when we are still able to. So usually when we tell people to how to get up and down from the ground, they kind of lost their ability to do so already because rarely does anyone practice. So we want to kind of practice while we're still relatively comfortable with being able to. Okay, so once again, we are just going to hinge into position. So try to keep our spine in a nice longest position. Okay, support ourselves with our hands. Okay, make sure your chair is steady or straight enough. Okay, so kind of weaker leg towards the back. Okay, and you can kind of walk yourself back down. Okay, and then opposite will be just climb back up. Okay, so in this position, you can probably just kind of lie yourself down. Okay, so I'm gonna guess. Okay, so I'm gonna wait till everyone is Ready? I'm going to move the camera afterwards, so a little bit closer. Okay, and you can kind of just lie and maybe turn yourself into position. Okay, so we start off lying from the back. Okay, so give me a second. I'm just going to move my camera so it's a little bit easier to see. Okay, so just give everyone a second to get into a comfortable position as well. Okay, hopefully this will be okay. I might have to experiment a little bit. Forgot to mention that. So they've asked if we could grab a towel as well. Okay, just you might not always need it, but it does help a little bit. Okay, so if you feel short of breath, things like that, maybe this class is not quite right for you. Okay, so first thing to notice is kind of just being more aware of just what your spine is doing and what your head is doing. So for some people who the back is already kind of a little bit rounded like this, they might find that you have to always arch the kind of neck to get the head to touch the ground. So in that case, it would be more comfortable, it would be better if you have something just to support the head or support the neck. Okay, so if you have to kind of arch your neck like this to get your head to touch the ground, get something to just support your head, just to elevate it a little bit, just so that you're not overly arching your kind of neck like this. Okay, so you should be able to kind of comfortably kind of look up towards the ceiling, okay, without having to crank the neck. Okay, so it might be more comfortable with something to support the head as well. Okay, but if you're fine, you can just have it flat on the ground as well. Okay, so secondly, kind of just notice what your low back is doing as well. So some people, if you have really tightened hips, you might find that you're doing something like this. Okay, this would be quite exaggerated. Some people, you're very used to rounding your back, you might find your low back is completely flush against the ground. Okay, so we do want to keep just a little bit of a curvature in the low back. So I'm just going to maybe try to play around the thickness of it, but some people might find it more comfortable if you have just a little bit of a support underneath the low back. Okay, so there's a little bit of a curvature. We still have a curvature maybe about one kind of a palm worth, or maybe a little bit more, just supporting your low back area. So we have keeping a natural curve. Okay, so but if you don't have it and you feel comfortable, that's completely fine as well. You might play around with how thick the towel is. Okay, so I'm just going to do without, because it just makes it easier for me to move around. Okay, so first thing, okay, we are just going to go into this kind of relaxed or neutral position. Okay, so arms up first. Okay, and you're just going to let your shoulders kind of relax into the ground a little bit more. And just kind of maybe take a couple of breaths in and out. Okay, so you can think of this if you imagine me standing up in the exact same position, my head, my shoulder blade, and my pelvis is kind of in a straight line, okay, because the ground is kind of a straight line. Okay, so this is the kind of neutral position that we are looking for. With a little bit of curvature, a little bit of space in my low back, a little bit of space behind my neck. Okay, so that's the natural curve of this spine. Okay, a lot of people are a little bit tight in the shoulder area. A lot of people are a little tight in the hip area as well. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, we are just going to try to open the shoulders a little bit more. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to just do a snow angel. Okay, so you are just going to kind of bring your arms up a little higher. Okay, at certain points, you're going to probably feel tightness or stretch in the chest area. Okay, once again, we're not going into pain. Okay, but kind of just go to your own kind of slightly uncomfortable limits, okay, but not into pain. Okay, we're just gonna spend a little bit of time just moving our arms up and down. Okay, when you get to the point where you're a little tight, okay, maybe just spend a little more time there. Let gravity help you to open the chest. Be careful of your low back. Some people, when they start to lift their arms up, they're a little bit limited to the shoulders. Okay, so they start to kind of over arch it back to get the arms on the floor. Okay, so that's why sometimes a towel can also help us to just remember, just like, so you don't want the back to lead the towel. So you can think of applying just a little bit of pressure on from your low back onto the towel. Okay, but we don't want to flatten the spine out either. Okay, so that's why a towel underneath can help. Okay, so let's just do maybe 5 to 10 times. Once again, when you feel this sort of a little bit of tightness, just let gravity kind of help you open up a little bit more. Okay, you can also just find a spot where you're a little bit tighter in. Okay, you feel a little bit more tightness. Okay, and just kind of hang around there. Okay, deep breath in and out. Okay, just still pay attention to what your spine is doing so that you're not overcompensating with your back. Okay, so let's maybe, instead of repetition, let's maybe spend about a minute here. Okay, so either just sweep back and forth, okay, or spend a little bit more time in the position you're tight sit. Okay, if you're very flexible in the shoulders, just think of that. This is a rest period. Okay, but as we get older, we tend to be a little bit tighter through the shoulders. And we tend to overuse the low back instead. Okay, so at any point, if you feel like you need to get out of position, feel free to do so. I'm just gonna double check that everything is still okay. Okay, so that's got the shoulders. Okay, we do almost the same thing with the hips. Okay, so a lot of people are tighter in the hips. So once again, we are just going to kind of reach out of the hips. Okay, but once again, pay attention to what your back is doing. So if you're tight, so once again, you might try to compensate with the back, the low back area. So your goal is try to press the heel towards your that direction. Okay, you might feel a little bit of stretch here, a little bit of tension in the back. Hands can be whatever is where it's comfortable for you. Okay, and you can just kind of alternate between the two legs. Okay, but your goal is just think of lengthening your legs towards that way. And once again, you can kind of hold, okay, or you can just alternate, but pay attention to what your low back is doing. Okay, so spending time in this position also just help us to, once again, get into that longer posture. We're letting gravity just kind of sort of round it this way, which we might do more often if we're sitting there. We're just letting gravity kind of extend our back. Okay, if you feel comfortable, you can also just either reach out on the same side. So you can try to reach towards the top of your head with your fingertips. Okay, and reach towards the bottom of your heel. Okay, if you're very tight in the shoulders, you might be more comfortable to have something to support your arms as well. Okay, but once again, be careful that you're not overcompensating with your low back. So we're just going to let's try 3 to 5 per side. Okay, so you can reach, okay, maybe 1 or 2 deep breaths in. This is also just kind of practice for reaching overhead as well. usually more comfortable than if we are standing up. Kind of gravity is kind of helping us instead of kind of resisting us, I guess. Okay, so you can reach, even maybe lightly press down your hands or your heel into the ground. So you can lengthen, okay, and open up. So if your back is still uncomfortable, you can add just a little bit of a turn side to side. Okay, once again, you don't have to go all the way. Okay, if you don't want to, or if it's not safe for you to do so. Okay, but sometimes lightly turning, sometimes even lightly moving can be more comfortable. Okay, so that's kind of the opening up parts of it. So our hips, our shoulders affects our spine position. So once again, if someone's very tight in the shoulders, they might have to do this to get the arms up. Okay, if you're very tight in the front of the pelvis, that tends to change the orientation of the pelvis as well. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the building of the endurance of the what we call extensor muscles, or the muscles in the back of the body. Okay, so what you're going to do is that you're still going to look up, okay, but now you're going to apply a little bit of pressure into the floor with the back of your head. Okay, so we're not looking up. Okay, we're trying to kind of push kind of our ears down towards the ground. So imagine you're on a beach. You're trying to leave a print of your head, back of your head, into the sand. Okay, so you're going to kind of at most 30 to 40% of your maximum effort. Okay, you're going to press your head down towards the floor. You can think of making a double chin as well. You might feel a little bit tense to your neck in front of it as well. Okay, and we're going to hold here for 3, 2, 1. Okay, and relax. Okay, and we're just going to do this a couple of times. Okay, so the equivalent of this is that let's imagine I'm standing up. So we don't want to head forward posture. We want the head to be on top of the shoulders. Okay, so that's why we're working more on trying to press the head kind of towards our back. Okay, so we're going to try this one more time. This time we're going to hold it for 5 seconds. Okay, remember not to hold your breath. Okay, at most 30 to 40%, kind of maybe 30 to 50% maximum effort. So kind of a light and most medium effort. Okay, once again, this is called head press. Okay, so we're going to press the back of your head into the floor. Still make sure you can breathe in and out. Okay, you're holding here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Take a breath in and take a breath out. Okay, we're going to do this for 5 seconds. Is okay for you? Last one, we're going to do 7 seconds. Okay, so adjust so if it's too much, adjust a little bit lower. Okay, but if you feel comfortable, do it for 7 seconds this time. Okay, once again, we're not looking up, we're still looking straight towards the ceiling. Okay, and head press, holding for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, and relax. Okay, so we're going to do about 5 repetitions. Okay, so choose a time that's comfortable for you. Okay, so we're going to do about 5 repetitions, anywhere between 3 to 7 seconds each. Okay, so we're going to do it 2 more times. Okay, so I'm going to do the full set 7. Feel free to adjust. Okay, so once again, hand press. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, and relax. Breath in and out. Okay, and feel free to do the snow angel in between or the leg reach. It's just to loosen up. Okay, last time. Okay, head press. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, and relax again. Breath in, breath out. Okay, we're going to move a little bit lower. Okay, so not just the head this time. Okay, we're going to do what is called shoulder press now. Okay, so once again, this will be running forward. Okay, gravity is also already helping us to open up the chest already. Now we're going to add a little bit of shoulder press. So you can think of making your shoulders wider apart. Okay, so think of it spreading your shoulders or spreading your wings. So that's a little wider apart. So we're not trying to necessarily jam it into the ground. Okay, think of widening your shoulders. Think of getting your entire shoulder blade to be on the floor. Okay, watch what your back is doing again. Okay, you might feel a little bit of tension in between your shoulder blade and your back area. Okay, you can also do this at the same time with the hip press. Okay, so once again, spread your wings, spread your shoulder blades. Okay, holding for 3, 2, 1. Okay, relax. Okay, so once again, I'm not doing so much this. I'm trying to squeeze it in so much. I'm trying to spread my shoulder. I'm thinking of getting my entire shoulder blade to kind of touch the ground. Okay, breath in and out in between. Okay, second repetition. Okay, once again, head press, shoulder wider or shoulder press. Still pretty breathe in and out. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, and relax, breath in and out. Okay, for repetitions, if you go up to 7 seconds if you feel comfortable. Okay, but once again, head press, shoulder press or shoulder wide. Breathe in and out. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, relax. We're going to do 2 more repetitions. Okay, so once again, 3 to 7 seconds, 7 seconds, up to you as to what you're comfortable with. Okay, so head press, shoulder press. 7, 6, 5. So I'm doing head press and shoulder press at the same time. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, relax in between. Okay, last repetition. Head press, shoulder wide. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, and relax. Okay, so that's the second level. Okay, the third level, we're trying to extend the upper back a little more. Okay, so you can think it's more of a chest raise. Okay, so the important thing is that you want to monitor what your low back is doing. So we're still going to be doing a little bit less of a head press. We're still widening the shoulders. Okay, we're going to focus on the chest bone here. Okay, and we're trying to almost bring up towards somewhere around that direction. Okay, but without doing arching on my low back like this. Okay, so it takes a little bit of control to do. Okay, you're going to feel the pressure or the tension kind of around your mid back area in between your shoulder blades. Okay, and not so much in your low back so much. Okay, so a little bit less of a head press. Okay, shoulders wider, and just think of, I don't know if it's hard if you can see, but it's more of a almost like a shoulder going a little further backwards, and you try to bring your chest up towards kind of that direction. Okay, but I'm trying to do it without losing an over exaggerated curve in my low back. Okay, and you might find your mid back almost comes off the floor a little bit. Okay, but then your low back is still kind of on a towel. Okay, so once again, we're gonna do 3, 5, 7, and then just 2 more repetitions. Okay, so head press, we call it kind of a chest raise. Okay, holding for 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I feel a little bit of tension in my mid-back area. Okay, 5 seconds this time. Okay, widen your shoulders. Okay, kind of bring your chest bone up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, relaxing completely in between. Okay, so it's hard to control, but a little bit of a kind of a soreness or a little bit of effort in my mid-back area, okay, without overarching my low back. Okay, 7 seconds this time. Okay, wider. Kind of raise the chest and bring your heart towards the ceiling. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, and relax. Okay, 2 more repetitions. You can add a little bit of head press as well. But just go a little bit of head press. Spread your wings. Chest up or heart towards the ceiling. Okay, without overarching the low back. Okay, so you can almost lightly press your low back into the towel. Okay, holding for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, and once again, relax in between. Okay, take a deep breath in and out. Okay, and we're just going to do one last repetition while I check the time. Okay, so once again, a little bit of a head press. Spread your wings. Kind of chest lift. Okay, low back. Still maintaining contact on the towel, so a little bit of curve here. Okay, and holding for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, and relax. Okay, so it might be a little bit of a soreness in the mid-back area. Okay, so we're gonna kind of maybe we'll stop here at this point, okay, just because you might not be used to kind of using that mid-back part so much. Okay, so you can kind of once again loosen up. Okay, once again, so just for review, this is a position where you can unload your spine. Okay, and you can kind of use a snow angel to help you to open the shoulders. Okay, you can think of lengthening your body from your heel to your toes. Okay, to open the hips and also the shoulders. Okay, watch what your low back is doing. So we want to keep that curvature, natural curvature of the spine here. A little bit of a curvature, also curvature in the neck area as well. Okay, and we did kind of 3 kind of extensive endurance exercise. So 3 levels. There's the neck press or head press, where you just press your head, leave an imprint of your head onto the ground. Okay, we're holding for somewhere about 3 to 7 seconds. Okay, and we can repeat about 5. You can do less or more, about 5, kind of 3 to 5 repetitions. Okay, second level is the spreading your shoulders wider. So think of not just bring your shoulders onto the floor, but making it a little wider apart. Okay, and lastly is the trying to bring up your chest bone. Bring up to the ceiling. Okay, without overarching the low back. Okay, and you just feel kind of mid-back muscles tightening as you do this. And you're holding for 3 to 7 seconds. Okay, without holding your breath. Okay, light to medium effort. Okay, so let's slowly come back out. Okay, so usually You might roll onto your side and onto front. Sometimes you can even just spend a little more time in this position. That can help for some back problems, okay, where you just spend a little more time in extended position. Okay, so maybe you can spend a little bit of time here. So you can just start off with your head kind of resting on your kind of your wrist. It's also a little bit of a breathing exercise as well. Okay, just because we are limiting how much your chest can move. So what you will find is as you breathe in, your body kind of have no choice but to use more of your diaphragm. Okay, so you just feel your belly kind of pressing into the ground as you take a breath in. Okay, you might feel your low back kind of rising and falling as you breathe in and out. So this is also a good position to kind of reset your breathing as well. Okay, if you feel comfortable, you can add a little bit more extension. Okay, so you can be on a little more on your elbows. Okay, so we still don't want to be so much rounded like this. Okay, at any point if you feel pain or it's uncomfortable, you just stop. Okay, but we want to lightly almost imagine driving your elbows into the ground. Get shoulders away from the ears. Okay, so your elbows kind of going this way a little bit more. Okay, and you can think of getting your head towards that direction. Okay, so you think of lengthening the back of your head towards forward and up towards the ceiling. And to lengthening, you're extending your back this way. Okay, once again, you can take a couple of breaths in and out. Okay, make sure you're not overly tense, so you can still turn your head side to side. Okay, and we're just going to kind of rock back and forth until we can almost get up onto our hands and knees. Okay, so while we're here, we're also just going to put a little bit of stress on a wrist bone. Okay, so usually a lot of people when they fall, their natural instinct is to reach out their hands. So a lot of people can break their wrist bone as well. Okay, so one way we can kind of maintain the bone density of pretty much any part of the body is really just put a little bit of pressure on it. Okay, a lot of people are also pretty tight in the wrist area as well, so this can help you to open up a little bit. If it's too painful for you, get your hands a little more forward so that your wrist is not so bent. Okay, but if you feel comfortable, you can bring a little bit closer to underneath your shoulder blade. Okay, and you can almost rock a little bit back and forth. Okay, just to your own comfort level. Okay, but we're just putting a little bit more pressure, a little more stress on the wrist bone area. Okay, make sure you can still breathe. Okay, and even just pay attention to what your spine is doing. So some people might be a little bit more arched this way. Some people might be a little bit more rounded. Okay, just think of once again, lengthening your spine. Okay, so lengthening doesn't mean completely straight. There's still a curve in the back, low back, still a curve in the neck area. Okay, and when you're ready, you can just go back to your chair. So go back to the chair, and once again, you can walk yourself off your chair. Stronger leg, or just the leg you want to practice with up front. You might want to put it step on your toes and use your arms and legs to help you get back up onto your feet. Okay, and then when you're ready, stand back up tall. Okay, so you can slowly do that. Maybe move a little bit, definitely sit down, or if you feel a little lightheaded from changing position, while I try to get my camera back in position. And you can loosen up back up this way. Okay, so just to bring it back into this, everyday scenario. So the stuff we did is just kind of letting our gravity pull us from something like this closer to something like this. Okay, so if you imagine I'm lying down, gravity is pulling me that way. Okay, so naturally, as we lie down, naturally we are already a little bit more extended. Our head is a little more in a better position on, so my head is on top of my shoulders is more on top of my hips already. Okay, so when we are reaching or opening up, we're just trying to kind of mobilize the shoulders and hips so that it doesn't affect our back so much. Okay, so if you're really tight here, some people stand with more like this because they're tight up front. Okay, so we want to most of the time stretch to the front of the hips, stretch to the front of the shoulders. Okay, so when we reach up, we can do so without changing our back position so much. So some people, when they're very tight, they almost have to do something like this to reach up. Okay, so we're trying to being able to separate our shoulders from our spine so that we can really move our limbs without changing this so much. Okay, so in the head press, shoulder press, and the chest raise is something like this. So the head press is literally just, can I bring my head on top of my shoulders? Okay, so we don't want a head forward posture. We want a head to be, because there's much more pressure on a kind of shoulder area, neck area. So we want to press in backwards, okay, but we're not trying to do this. Okay, so which is why we're not looking up. We're trying to press our head backwards. Okay, second one, we're practicing, can we go wider for our shoulders? Okay, so we're not so much doing this. So you can actually still do this even if you're rounded. Okay, we're trying to widen your shoulders so that you are in a better position. Okay, and last one is we're trying to just extend through the kind of the mid back, upper back area, where we're just trying to, and so kind of down here, we're trying to bring our chest up, okay, but we're not trying to do this. Okay, we're just trying to kind of, so you can see my upper back is a little rounded. Okay, I'm trying to trying to extend through my mid back to upper back area. Okay, but I'm not trying to do kind of this way. So some people can be kind of stuck like this and they straighten up and they're still, upper back is still kind of like this. Okay, I'm just overly arching my low back area just so I'm looking straight forward. Okay, so once again, that's why we want a little bit of almost a back press into the towel when we're on the floor. Okay, head press, wide through the shoulders, and then our chest raise. Okay, and that's more of a little bit of a better position. We're holding it, so we're not trying to lift heavy weights with our back muscles. We're just trying to make them last a little longer. So you usually find for, let's say, for first while, and then afterwards, as we get tired, we kind of hang onto our ligaments, hang onto our spine because my back is getting tired. When we're lifting heavy, the first few times we might do this well, but afterwards, I'm tired, so I'm just going to hang onto my muscles or my ligaments because that's easier. Okay, so for the stuff we practice today is head press, wide, spread our wings, spread our shoulders. Okay, a little bit of a chest raise. Okay, without overly compensating with our low back. Okay, and of course being able to breathe in and out at the same time, so we're not just tense like this. Okay, so we're just trying to make it so this becomes more of a natural position. Okay, or at least being able to do this while we are doing something, lifting something heavy. If we're going to spend a lot of time in a position, okay, and being able to kind of do this, even turning is easier if our back is longer. Okay, so kind of fairly maybe a little dry. It's a kind of basic exercise, just a little bit more awareness to what our spine is doing. So these are the basics of the head press, shoulder press, and the chest raise. Okay, something you can practice at home. Hopefully this is helpful for everyone. A little bit, once again, if you have osteoporosis, you do want to incorporate other weightlifting routine into your exercise routine as well. But this is very specific to the what we call extensor muscles of the trunk. Okay, so thank you for coming, everyone. Next week will be the same. We might do a little bit more stuff, a little bit harder, but this is the basics of what we're doing. No problem. Okay, so thank you for coming again. Take care, everyone. Maybe see you here next week.